Welcome back to HCT DreamHack Montreal, and we finally finished round number 6. Moving on to, surprisingly enough, round number 7. And with me is the birthday boy himself, Dr. J. Dr. J, how did you enjoy that last series?
I really enjoyed that last series a lot, but I would like to say it's not just one birthday boy. It's birthday boys because it is also Neil, Lorinda, Bond.
And how old are you, sir?
Well. I'm 22. How old are you today?
22, yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, that's
Seems
pretty
good
impressive.
to me.
That's kind of crazy.
Bit of a birthday treat for us guys here because it's going to be Purple versus Feno, two of the best players in the world, battling it out for Feno, a chance to go to 7-0, which will put him into another top 16. Purple's on 5-1. That's a decent enough score. If you win this one, you're very, very close.
Yeah, you're very close at this point if you do win this game. You really want to do that. Feno right now has the security of having that extra game where he could technically lose, whereas Purple is definitely wanting to win this one, not only because it will make his tiebreakers slightly better, being able to be paired up into such an impressive player like Feno with his record, but also just, you know, you don't really want to fall to that 5-2.
Yeah, and he lost early on as well, so his tiebreakers might not be fantastic. Feno, the player with the most wins in DreamHacks in 2018. And I said it earlier, but I'm going to say it again. If he doesn't lose, no one can catch him.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep winning everything like a player like Hunter Ace, I mean, who is there to catch you? There's really not much. Feno's been having quite a year himself. I think he's been having one of the best years out of, you know, all of the Hearthstone players that are competing on the circuit.
I mean, he would be one of the people that was praying for Hunter Ace to get it done in EU Champs or EU playoffs so he could get to Worlds. So Feno would have a chance at last call. He's probably in second place right now. Maybe Yala, very close.
Yeah, I think all of those players are pretty close overall. You would know that better than I do because I'm more in touch with the Americas scene. But
yeah,
you know,
you like to go for those low point, sort of easy to remember numbers.
You're lucky it's your birthday.
Yeah, you too, man. So we have Feno Purple, as we were saying. Another thing with Feno is he's sort of got the hump with me a little bit because I picked Boar Control ahead of him for playoffs. And he says, oh, my stats are better than Boar's. Why are you picking Boar? Boar's from the UK. Why do you
can't
think?
really get by that. I mean, yeah, if Feno was from the UK, maybe you could have gone.
Yeah,
Feno,
exactly. That's how it works around here. But yeah, 6-0, absolutely amazing. He's just doing it over and over again, hitting these top 16s. One of very few players to get that many top 16s. Purple, on the other hand, sort of picks and chooses tournaments these days.
Yeah, you know, he's more, like, I'd say, seldomly seen at these tournaments, but he does like, obviously, being a Canadian native, likes to go out in, you know, his home country and trying to compete there. And obviously, he himself is a player to be reckoned with, just a very powerful staple in this Hearthstone scene for the longest time. Just a solid player overall. I mean, he has the stats to prove it. He's got everything to back it up, and I'm going to be impressed to see, you know, how he takes on someone as impressive as Feno. Let's
have a look what they've brought to the tournament. We've seen them before, but you may not have seen every match, so let's see what they have got, see if they can do it again. Picks and bans time. Purple with the Druid, which has been banned out. He's got Zoo, Control Warrior, and I think Odd Rogue, whereas Feno is sitting there with that lineup we keep talking about, Quest Rogue.
I believe it's the Even Warlock, Quest Rogue, and Token Druid, if I remember correctly. I'm not quite sure on the Warlock. It could potentially be Zulok, but I definitely know it is the Quest Rogue. Feno is a very prominent player of that Quest Rogue. He does fairly proficiently with that, really enjoys that deck. It is a very powerful deck overall. I believe we saw earlier, Feno just sweep players with that deck. And every time I talk to him, he says, yeah, I just 7-0 with Quest Rogue. That's all I play. That's all I need to play is just Quest Rogue.
Yeah, I was talking to Galen earlier today saying about how, you know, Feno is one of the best Quest Rogues in the game. And Galen says anyone can be the best Quest Rogue player in the game if you just draw Novice, Inventor, and Shadow Step every game. Well, Galen, if you're listening, draw it more often.
I think he's too busy playing his game right now.
He probably is. He's doing really well, actually.
But going back to the bans, because of course that's what we were intended to talk about, you saw the bans there, and it was just made a lot of sense that where they banned based off their strategies.
So here's a chance to say who you think is going to win. It's #Purple, and just to make it difficult, we've got #Fenomeno, which is actually his full name. We haven't just got Feno out there.
Yeah, Purple's got the advantage in this one by having the shorter
name. The shorter name, yeah, exactly.
The less characters to type when you're trying to figure out.
But you can copy paste to it.
Ooh, that is true. Yeah, that does make it slightly easier.
A way to get it in there a bit more quickly. So if you think Feno's going to win, no real excuse. Just copy paste to the person ahead of you. And in it goes.
That sounds like cheating. You can't just type out Fenomeno. It's not that much.
I mean, it's complicated. The O's all sort of spaced out awkwardly and so on.
Is it 2 M's? Is it 3 O's? Is there an X in there? Is there
an X
Q?
in there? Like,
there might be a silent Q.
Zyrez has got a silent X, his name.
Exactly.
Silent Q, like WordT97.
It might be. There you go. WordT97 is perfect. Or maybe it's Q Fenomeno. but there's a silent Q at the front.
So anyway, chat's had their say. Jay, you're not getting out of it. Who do you think's going to win?
Ooh, I always hate being put on the spot.
That's why I like doing it.
Since, you know, filling this casting role, I'm always put on the spot.
Well, Cora never says anything. Falcone never says anything. Firebat doesn't say anything. And I've got the chance for once in my life to put you on the spot.
I'm going to have to go with Feno. I think his results over the current year have been so impressive. I also think that he has been very proficient in those particular matchups with this Quest Rogue, especially against Odd Rogue, which I think typically Purple's going to be wanting to hope to get the win through that matchup right there, because Odd Rogue in the past is favored. I still think it is favored, but with the new addition of cards like Giggling Inventor and the proficiency of Fenomeno's play, I'm going to have to give it to him.
Unfortunately, it's going to be like the birthday club sticking together. I agree entirely. I think Feno's going to win. Plus, if I don't pick him, I'll just get like 16 more tweets telling me that I should be picking him. Going to pick him, so he better get it done, or I'm not picking him ever again.
Ooh, there's a lot of line for Feno.
Yeah,
not just
exactly.
The top
Not just
16
7,
slot. It's never being able to be picked by Lorinda again.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want that caster curse,
What
right?
happens if we have a Hearthstone kickball game? And Feno might get picked last because you'll never pick him.
Yeah, he'll just end up on Team NA.
That's not a bad team to be on. I think we've got a lot of talent there for a kickball roster.
So have a look at those numbers there. You can see it's pretty close.
That is neck and neck. That is definitely some Feno fans, some Purple fans. I mean, I believe both of these players just have very successful streams that they've been working on when they play competitively. I mean, it's very impressive to be as powerful in, you know, the streaming community as they are, and also be as competitive as they are. It's really hard when you start streaming. You start to sacrifice some of those, you know, competitive drives that you might have had in the past. But both of these players are getting it done. Yeah, Purple's stream, a lot of co-op play, a lot of interaction with other players. Feno puts on not only a good stream himself, but those show matches that everybody loves. Yeah, they both have, you know, kind of those unique quirks where, you know, Purple does invite players on, just tries, you know, have a good time, have a laugh, have fun, whereas Feno, you know, maybe treats it a little bit more seriously with how he wants to, you know, construct these matchups, saying, you know what, let's test out this matchup this weekend. Let's see what deck truly is favored. And last time was Quest Rogue versus Paladin, where he was challenged. He was like, I think Quest Rogue's favored, and everyone's like, you're an idiot, and then he won 6-2. Really? Yeah. I mean, maybe... Well, we're going to get to see his Quest Rogue game. I know. I'm excited to see that. Maybe Paladin might be favored. It's not. 8's a big enough sample size to prove it. 8 is a very large sample size. It is 1 greater than 7. But however, I'm going to need a sample size of at least 9 to calculate. Okay, well, maybe we'll see that later today, but we won't see it in this particular match. No Paladin for Purple, but there is some aggro stuff that Feno's going to have to get through. Let's get into game number 1 and see what they do. Looks like it's going to be Purple on that Odd Rogue, and Feno actually on his Even Warlock. I'd say right now, Purple got kind of the better advantage on this Q right here. Odd Rogue is very strong against Even Warlock, because Even Warlock a lot of the times doesn't have very strong ways to answer minions that have Cold Blood on them. If a Dire Mole sticks, if a Firefly sticks, something like that, and a Cold Blood comes out onto the minion, that could just be game-ending right then and there. Interesting to me, although no surprise really, that Purple was throwing away that Vile Spine. Obviously, it's very hard to activate it with no coin, but it is one of the ways to deal with those giants that can sometimes be tricky to deal with and start a fight back for the even lock. Yeah, Vile Spine is one of those cards that's typically kept in the Odd Rogue in this matchup, but I think it's more important to maybe find that Vicious Fledgling, that Hench Clan Thug, something potentially like that in order to secure the board state and rack up as much damage as quickly as possible. The way that Feno really loses, the way that Purple really loses this matchup is if he takes it to the long haul. If he, you know, just kind of grinds it out and takes it for a long game, that's how he loses. And Feno's going to have a chance to take it to that long haul because he can block off this early minion here, and he's going to have double ooze. Now, killing off the weapon's important because one of the Rogue's big assets is the value, the tempo as well as you get from that weapon. All that damage for just 2 mana. If you're developing a minion and destroying that weapon, it really can scupper the Rogue more than you would think. So it seemed very peculiar that, you know, Feno, instead of life tapping, which is the typical turn 1 play that the Even Warlock goes for, he actually opted to go coin Vulgar Homunculus. And the reason he did that is he baited out the dagger, which obviously Purple was going to do anyways, and then he plays an Acidic Swamp Ooze into it, and in doing so, it contests Hench Clan Thug and Vicious Fledgling. 2 of the cards that Feno is worried about the most in this matchup. So just by making that slightly off-balance play, by coining out the Vulgar Homunculus, he effectively gave him a soft answer to two of the cards he is scared of it the most in this matchup.
And the amazing thing here for Feno is all these 2-drops. He's really thinking about just playing Sun Fury as a 2-3. It challenges the board nicely with the Hellfire in hand. But yeah, he is scared of that Thug, which isn't in hand as it happens. Hellfire's, you know, it's about the only thing that Hellfire is not going to deal with that is actually a decent threat. And yes, saving back everything, maybe wanting to taunt up a Giant or a Twilight Drake later on. And this is going to allow Feno to save resources, and it's a nice spot to be in against Rogue when you can sneak in a couple of life taps.
Yeah, sneaking those life taps is pretty powerful. That's partly the reason why sometimes Rogue just kind of steamrolls with this matchup, is that you're fitting in life taps to try and find those resources to answer their board, but then ultimately they kind of sneak in that burst damage with the Deadly Poisons, the Leroy, and the Cold Blood, and it ends the game right there. Right now, Feno's got, you know, a decent play in his pocket right now. He can go ahead and play out that Twilight Drake just trying to contest the board. I will say, though, I was talking to Purple in between the rounds, and Purple was saying the MVP of the tournament for him right now is Tar Creeper.
He's playing 8, I think, isn't he?
I think he is playing 2 Tar Creepers in all of his decks.
That's 8.
Would not be surprised, exactly. Now that I'm doing math in my head, that is 8, Lorinda. You are exactly right. And he said the reason for that is because against a lot of decks, they just don't have great ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, even against Warlock, he can't get to this South Sea deckhand in order to clean up the board, and Tar Creeper's just going to potentially protect this Vicious Fledgling that's about to come down.
Yeah, looking through Purple's lineup, it looks to me like he predicted an aggro meta, and normally what you do is like, okay, how do I beat an aggro meta? What he's done is like, I think the aggro decks are the best. So do something like aggro decks win mirrors, throw in an Odd Warrior because it's a really good counter deck. It's also just got lots of things it can do that are different to aggro decks, and go that way. But he's going to struggle in this one at this rate. The health total for Feno is coming down. He doesn't have the 7/7, the Hood Reaver in hand, but he should be able to survive a little bit longer yet with the healing and with the protector that he saved back on turn 3.
Yeah, I think Purple right now is actually hoping for a Hooked Reaver because he has the perfect answer for that 1-drop Vile Spine. But when he sees his Hellfire comes out, however, Feno's going to be low, but his Purple's whole board is going to be cleared up, and he doesn't really have that great a follow-up besides, you know, Vile Spining a 4/1 Twilight Drake.
Right. And Feno even feels his position is so good, he can sneak in another tap.
And it looks like...
Yeah, he's going to taunt everything up.
I know, I think he's going to go for this Defile play here, which he does. He wants to save the Hellfire for potential board states later on. He might feel as if he never really needs to use it, and he doesn't want to take that 3 damage. He would rather kind of, you know, steer the game in a way that he never has to play the Hellfire. I think eventually he may have to.
Maybe he wants the Spellstone in hand first as well.
That also could be another potential reason. I think it's more so that Defile was going to be more awkward to play later on, and he had a perfect Defile turn while clearing off the dagger.
Incredibly low on health now, but does have that little bit of healing in hand. Still has that taunt, which could result in a lot of equivalent healing, but the Vile Spine Purple is holding on to.
Yeah, and if you're Feno here, you kind of have to commit to that Hellfire. If you don't Hellfire and you go for, say, another play where you play the Dread Infernal and you try and trade the Drake into the SI7 agent.
You can Shroom Brewer the Drake and taunt up both. That plays around.
That is true. That's a very strong play now that you've recommended it. That play kind of plays around the majority of them. It plays around Cold Blood. It makes sure that you don't need to Hellfire. So I actually really like this play. Not even going to attack, recognizing that there's no reason to put more damage onto the Drake if this Tar Creeper just has to go into it.
So one of these gets blown up, but still looking grim for Feno. This is how good this matchup has got for the Rogue, but Feno has tapped aggressively.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why Purple's looking so solid right now is because Feno has to tap to find these resources to answer these board states. If he doesn't, he's losing, but if he's tapping, he's also losing. It's a lose-lose situation. No
Spellstone is a big deal here. Just one Spellstone, heal yourself for 5, kill a minion is so huge. And
then he's nowhere close to trying to live to Gul'dan.
No, that's just not happening in this Hearthstone game. Well, never say never. I've seen weirder things happen. That Monsanto game, I never thought he was going to win that a minute ago. The Warrior game.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. This is just... Feno has to...
But he can't Hellfire or he's dead on board to Dagger.
I mean, he has to play the Plated Beetle, trade in, and Hellfire in order to live.
Yes.
I don't think there's any other play besides that one, because you can't play Vulgar Homunculus and Hellfire. You would have to play the Beetle. You'd regain the life. But then what are you doing the next couple of turns? And you can't life tap either, because you would die. This
Hoping one more turn to get you a spell stone
yeah.
and hope they don't have anything in hand. And as it happens, Purple does have some bad draws. Maybe Cold Blood isn't a very good pickup next turn, for instance.
Yeah, Cold Blood would be pretty weak. I mean, honestly, at this point, any card that isn't Cold Blood, just tempoing out a 2/2 Edwin Van Cleef might just be enough. And I think Feno recognizes that if he were to make that play of the Beetle Hellfire, he would need to tap to try and find something later on, because this hand does not get him there.
But that is not how armor works, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately for Feno, but I think Feno took the calculated risk of tapping, because if he doesn't life tap there to find something better, he is going to lose that game. Yeah,
Purple's entire deck, whatever he drew, was going to be able to play into the headwind. 2 more minions, and Feno wouldn't have had any answers. Purple taking a nice 1-0 lead.
I guess technically Feno could have gone for a play where he played the Plated Beetle, Hellfired, then tapped, put himself to 3 life.
Yeah, I do wonder if maybe he messed up the interaction.
It might have been something like that. I wouldn't suspect Feno of doing that, but sometimes, you know, you're just not thinking straight. You're like, all right, Beetle
he's just been sat around for 2 hours. He's been winning very quickly in his matches. You know, sometimes your brain just has to get back into gear.
And Purple looks like he's just going for a very old school approach to this odd rogue. And by the reason I say that is Tar Creeper has fallen out of the list, Cobalt Scalebane has fallen out of the list, and the reason that is there are, you know, stronger plays against certain matchups in the meta. But having Cobalt Scalebane in a matchup like this is very important.
How come? Because Druid is so bad at dealing with the big minions?
It's because Druid's very poor at dealing with these large-scale minions, and not only does Cobalt Scalebane present a large threat in and of himself, it's also the fact that he buffs a very mid-range size threat into something more. So not only do you have to answer the Scalebane at that moment, you also have to answer the minion that was Scalebaned.
And it also works well with the Tar Creeper because you've got to actually get there as well.
And Tar Creeper with Scalebane on it, it's pretty intimidating.
So normally in this matchup, you quite like your Whispering Woods to be played pretty early, but Purple recognizing this is a potential turn for this, and it's like, there's no point because you just trade into them all and nothing happens.
Yeah, that's why Purple went for the wide board state. Get those minions down as quickly as possible to try and take those value trades into the Wisps if Feno is forced to play that, or kind of hold him back from playing those Wisps. And if he plays these Fireflies and Flame Elementals earlier, it gets them down. He can trade them off before Spreading Plague becomes a real issue.
And this is really bad for Feno should he go behind in this one, because then he has his Quest Rogue with Zoo and the Odd Rogue to beat. Now, we saw him beat Odd Rogue yesterday. It's not impossible, but Quest Rogue doesn't like keep playing aggro matches, no matter how good you are. Eventually, it's just going to lose one.
Yeah, Quest Rogue isn't the greatest against these aggressive decks.
So if Feno thinks he's got time here, he can draw cards to feed these Whispering Woods. And he does feel he's got the time.
Yeah, he does have the time. Probably wants to get to that Malfurion fairly soon. And this is a prime example of why Cobalt Scalebane is just a pain. Because right now, sure, you can swipe Hero Power down this Cobalt Scalebane, but there's going to be a 4/2 Dire Mole staring at you from the other side.
Do moles stare at people? I thought they were blind.
You know, I'm actually curious, now that you mentioned that. You know, moles, I think, are blind, so how can the mole hit face if it doesn't, if it's blind?
It smells.
Oh,
it doesn't smell it. You can smell where the face is. I doubt it smells. That's insulting to the mole, but I don't want the mole's union getting on my back.
It probably does smell.
But yeah, if it can't see to wash itself. So Purple going to take care of as many of these as he can. Does mean that Feno will get a chance to get into Malfurion mode, but this Scalebane is becoming that nuisance that you predicted. Swipe may have to take some evasive action here.
I do think that he would rather head that target onto something else, but like I said, Scalebane has already buffed the same minion twice, making it a huge threat, sculpting the way Feno has to play this game.
A bit unfortunate for Purple, it has hit the wrong minion there, meaning the swipe is pretty powerful right now.
Yeah, Swipe will be able to clear up the majority of the board, just leave around, you know, the 3/3 and the 1-3 currently. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Malfurion come out here, because you really need to get this card online as quickly as possible, because it is the most powerful card in this matchup. You also still have an answer for this 7-2, because unfortunately for Purple, the Cobalt Scalebane buff didn't go on to something he quite would have liked. But staring at the other end,
Mr. Fungal Man.
Mushroom Man.
Mushroom Man.
Mushroom
Man.
Man.
Fun guy to be with, and he's a fun guy to have on your side.
I see what you did there. I like that.
I like the slow
I like where your
recognition.
head's at, Lorinda.
Do you know where my head's at? Because I don't. If you find it, just let me know.
It's in Fungal World.
Is that next door to Muzzyville?
Yeah, it's next door to Muzzyville.
Muzzy, we will be seeing potentially as our second match later, depending on what happens in this one.
This one is looking to be fairly quick. Cobalt Scalebane has buffed 3 minions so far, and Feno has absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and he's had a decent enough hand, not a fantastic one, but decent enough. He's had the swipe, some removal, and he did use the removal very early on to deal with a fairly irrelevant minion.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has to Whispering Woods, then swipe the SI7 agent. I mean, he still had a decent life total, but all it takes is 1 Leroy, 1 Cold Blood, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's just dead on the follow back.
There's no decent health total when you're facing down this board.
There is no decent health total against a Cobalt Scalebane.
Even Control Warrior gets a little bit upset about this board.
Cobalt Scalebane, I mean, I'm surprised we haven't seen it emerge more in decks. It is still a very powerful card. I think one of the issues is on ladder it is too slow for matchups like Zulok and matchups like Odd Paladin. But in a matchup like this, where it is slightly slower, it is a very powerful card. There's 2 lines of play here. Whispering Woods swipe, or Whispering Woods.
Soul of the Forest, close your eyes is another line, yeah.
There was also potential to do a swipe into a hero power onto the Cobalt Scalebane to finally answer it. But if you're not developing a board state and you use those cards as inefficiently as possible, it's kind of a slow spike.
This Scalebane's done like 28 damage to various things. It's buffed minions, it's hit 5 itself. Why isn't it dead? Feno's had a chance to remove it, but he's always had to remove the minion that's been buffed.
I think Feno has been trying to take the calculated risk of letting the Scalebane live in hopes of eventually being able to stick a board state. But now the crazy thing is, the last board state that Feno can actually make is with Spreading Plague. And Purple's actually going to play around that by just getting rid of his Fungal Mancer.
Feno could have played the Soul of the Forest and just taken a chance last turn. With double Savage Draw in hand.
Such a risk.
He's going to die a lot of the time there, but he's going to die a lot of the time this way anyway.
Sometimes it's that risk you have to take. I mean, if Purple wanted to, he could have just traded 1 by 1 to kind of minimize how much that Savage Draw damage does. It's something a lot of these players have been recognizing, is instead of, you know, clearing them up, you can just clear 1 to 2 of them up and leave the other ones up.
Feno has also had chances at various points to use Savage Draw to deal 2 damage with his face early on. Not so much in the last few turns. But he is in a bit of a pickle. He is going to finally clear up the board, and he is still on 17, and he does have UI in hand, so maybe he realized he had a little bit more time than it looked, using these Savage Draws for clears, because if you stabilize, you win. You don't need the Savage Draw kill. You just get yourself a board of 1/5s and buff them up with the branching pass, and that's the game over. But that's a long way off right now. And obviously, most of the rogue minions are only mid-size. If you can armor up for 3 a turn, that deals with a minion, effectively.
Does deal with the minion effectively. I'm curious to think what Feno's thinking about here. He's either thinking about whether he wants to push 7 to the face in order to try and end this game as quickly as possible, because he does recognize that he doesn't have that Whispering Woods board state to make anymore. It's mostly reliant on this Ultimate Infestation Ghoul, some Arcane Tyrants, or, you know, the various minions that are in Fenomeno's deck that aren't that many right now. Still a couple awkward draws for him.
I think he's thinking, I hope my opponent's hand isn't Firefly, Thug, Edwin, because that would be bad for me.
Yeah, that'd probably be the worst hand, because Edwin Van Cleef right now is a very, very big pirate. Not a pirate, but he might as well be.
Why isn't he a pirate?
Yeah, I'm a little curious as
Lore
to
people always shout at me for asking that question, but that just makes me want to ask it more, because there's obviously like a secret conspiracy of lore that means that he's not a pirate.
And it's crazy to think that Cobalt Scalebane lived for about 3 to 4 turns and buffed up a lot of the board, and Feno is actually stabilizing.
He was. But then Blood Knight, Argent Squire happened.
He might still be fine through this. It's a little dicey, but...
Well, when is somebody in trouble if this is a little dicey? I can see it. I can see that he's got a chance.
Because he could just commit the swipe onto the Edwin and then trade off the Ghoul into the Blood Knight, or maybe just trade off the Ghoul into the Edwin itself.
The Gigglemeister is going to buy him a lot more time. The Rogue is out of cards.
The Gigglemancer.
Yeah.
Giggling Inventor is one of the reasons that Odd Rogue is falling off itself, is because Odd Rogue cannot physically deal with this card that well. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go into the... I guess the 1 damage doesn't matter too much unless there's some kind of Spellstone shenanigans, but, you know, the Blood Knight has to go into one of these Annoytrons anyways. Oof. And purple is almost there.
He is, but look at this next turn from Feno. He's got the Open Summons, the Violet Teacher, a whole wealth of ways to make a massive board, but he needs to not die. It's so close.
I mean, Feno can kind of just tank up like a warrior at this point and try and outlive. Branching
Paths for...
I wouldn't be opposed to just seeing Branching Paths for 12 armor.
Yeah?
Go ahead and Hero Power down the Blood Knight.
Pay attention,
you could even just ignore the Blood Knight.
Yeah, I think if you Branching Paths for armor and just start going face, they might have to trade into you.
I am ready to...
And you see Feno there just...
Oh, he's going to trade, okay.
Okay.
Too.
I don't know about that one. That seemed way too risky to me. Because if you just gain 12 and Cold Blood is off the top of the deck, you instantly lose right then and there. I think Purple's looking at this like, why did you just give me an opportunity to win this game?
Yeah.
All Feno had to do was gain 12. He could have taken the hit from the Blood Knight, still had 6 extra health through a Leroy Cold Blood combo, and then won the game next turn.
I give up.
Feno never had to take that risk.
He didn't. But he did take it, and it got there. Purple did have a draw for that Cold Blood. And that's going to be huge, not just for this game, but for the tournament. Again, Feno needs to win this to guarantee himself top 16. Wow.
I think that's a bit of a blunder on Feno's side. I would not expect that from a player of his caliber. I mean, maybe there's something I'm not thinking of that I'm missing, but Purple even... I think Purple is still baffled at what just happened. You see him kind of think about, why did he make that play? If he had just gained the armor, he knows only have 1 card in hand.
If I played against Purple, I'd make that play because it might tilt him.
The one merit I can see for Feno making that play is that he wanted to put enough pressure on the board. That way, if Purple were to draw Myra's Unstable Element, he could potentially kill through that. I think that might be what Feno's thinking about. But even then, I don't know about that one.
Now, this matchup is very different to normal thanks to the card you see in the middle of Purple's hand there, Baron Geddon.
Baron Geddon's pretty powerful in this matchup, and I think that is quite the reason why Purple is bringing it, is for this exact matchup right here, or just for aggressive decks in general. It's just another form of AoE that, you know, Warrior is kind of missing out on.
How did you talk the magnificence of that volcano? It's amazing.
I apologize, Lorinda. I'm just so used to focused on, you know, this thrilling gameplay.
Fair enough.
That volcano does not get in my way.
Probably explains a lot.
I actually don't even know how to activate them.
I don't either. I nearly know, and then the last 2 things I always get wrong.
I think it's
you start off at the left and you sort of go across, but then you mess around.
It's either drum, shell, lily pad, something like that, or it's drum, lily pad, shell. I can't remember.
Kura knows.
I'm sure everyone else in the world knows but us too.
Oh well. They'll let us off, I'm sure. They're always easy on us, guys.
Hopefully. It is our birthday. It has to be a little bit nicer.
We have that excuse for about another 6 hours.
Exactly.
Then it's back to being dumped upon. So Purple's just going to say, okay, Feno, you can't sit around and wait here. I'm going to make you actually defend yourself. Meanwhile, Purple's just setting up with Vectors, Flurries, and Baron Geddons.
Yeah, Purple has, you know, those AoEs, and I mean, makes sense. That's one of the reasons why to bring Odd Warriors. It is very strong against these aggressive decks. It's going to be interesting to see how Feno decides to navigate this matchup. Is he going to go ahead and...
And it could definitely come down to Quest Rogue versus Zoo at the end here.
That's pretty dicey. You don't want to see it come down to that because Zulok is notoriously strong.
I feel that if you bring Quest Rogue to a tournament, I want to see you play some of those hard matchups. Because they're going to happen.
I agree.
There's plenty of aggro in the meta, and Feno, he's 6-0 with that Quest Rogue, and he has gone through a lot of aggro lineups, so this lineup's working really well for him. But it does involve winning a certain decent percentage of those Quest Rogue versus aggro.
And even then, he still says on the floor that he's just 3-0ing people with Quest Rogue. I mean,
Yeah.
It is a very strong, polarizing deck.
And he's very good with it.
Yes, I will say, though, I've seen Feno play Quest Rogue. We saw him and we commentated on him earlier on in the tournament during the earlier rounds where he was playing it, and he was making some very nice lines.
He used one Glacial Shard to just freeze a Vicious Fledgling turn after turn, took the damage from all the other minions because he didn't care, really prioritized his very limited freeze and removal. And that helped him out a lot. But he's not even got there yet. First of all, he's got to lose this, then he's got to win the next one. Or the other way around, but that would be unusual, to say the least.
That would be a bit unusual. I think with the way Purple's deck is teched, that it's definitely going to lean for his favor. He has those copies of Whirlwind. He has that Baron Geddon. It's just honestly a matter of time where the matchup has to grind out, and eventually Feno tries his hardest, hopes that there's no answer, and then at the end of the day, so ultimately gets there.
I love watching Purple build lineups because he takes normal decks and changes like 2 cards in each of them, and that turns it into a totally different deck for the tournament. I wouldn't recommend copying his decks for ladder. They're built with very specific purposes.
Yes, that's something that Purple does very strong. And what I like about Purple is whenever he's constructing a lineup, he consults a lot of different people. He consults everyone from casters to players to, heck, I wouldn't be surprised if he consulted his stream.
Really? Have you seen the people who inhabit his stream?
They're all lovely.
Yeah. Mainly casters, though. Why would you take advice from casters? I guess you just do the opposite.
I think it's important to get everyone's advice.
Yeah, it is. He's very good at taking it.
I think he's very good at that.
Orange is another one who just takes advice from every single person he can talk to and then makes his own opinion out of all of it.
Yeah, I think I saw Orange talking to some of the booths outside. He was like, what was your opinion on my play? And they said, what are you talking about?
Yeah, this isn't a Hearthstone booth.
Yeah, this is the wrong section, sir.
Would you like a keyboard? Dynamatics are very good at taking care of Violet teachers. That's what Purple's used this one for.
Actually, I have a funny story about Dynamatic. I was playing Token Druid with Violet Teacher, and I had 2 Annoyatrons on the board, and I had my Violet Teacher.
Okay.
And I completely forgot that it doesn't hit mechs. And then I saw all of it go towards my Violet Teacher.
Did you tweet out that you were unlucky?
And no, I didn't tweet out that because I was like, you know, it happens, whatever. But I emoted my opponent saying, wow, like that was crazy. And then I sat there a couple of turns later and realized that I was just wrong.
Power of the emote is you can later on say, oh wow, I didn't know you were playing Dynamatic. That's a cool card.
They might have just thought I was saying, wow, Dynamatic, that's a good card. Congratulations.
Some poor guy who's battling his way to top 200 legend faces you and gets wowed for playing Dynamatic in Odd Warrior.
It was an impressive tech card.
Well done. New innovation. Oh, I'd love it if someone did that to me. I like when people BM me and they're being wrong.
I do it all the time.
What, be wrong?
Be wrong. Maybe not the BMing part, but definitely the be wrong part. But here we go. This is Purple just going to be able to answer up this board state pretty cleanly. Uses one of the Whirlwinds. Feno is definitely going to need to find the second Whispering Woods. Soul the Forest, but even then, there's a Baron Geddon on the board.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. You've got to get rid of it immediately.
I mean, the most that I think Feno can do is go ahead and Violet Teacher, maybe cast that Oaken Summons to gain that armor, and then Spellstone off.
Yeah.
The Baron Geddon.
This Druid goes through his deck so quickly.
Yes. It's insane how quick the deck just functions and how fast it gets through all its pieces.
When we were watching that last match, Firebat and I were joking, you should put like Mechathune in here.
I mean, why not?
Mechathune tokens.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think I've seen some lists through the Asia-Pacific playoffs that are playing Malagos Druid, but they have Mechathune.
Oh,
and
wow.
the reason they do that is because instead of the like Togwaggle Azalina combo, they go through their entire deck. If they don't complete the Malagos combo in order to kill off something like an odd control warrior, they just slam a Mechathune.
Yeah. There's a 10
And they have an Innervate in there and a Naturalize. And they just hold on to that combo against Odd Warrior, and you've covered a lot of your...
That sounds a lot
bases.
quicker and a lot less convoluted than sitting there and borrowing decks and then giving decks back and then confusing people.
Yeah, who needs to confuse people with deck swapping when you can just go ahead and kill them?
Yeah, I think that's a lot more sensible.
That's my first instinct. There comes the Skaterbot. Another Dynamatic. Dynamatic is a very, very crucial card to why Odd Warrior is as powerful as it is. It just kind of clears up aggressive board states and makes sure you even have a minion left on the board to just kind of stabilize that board state you just made for yourself.
I still think it might be the best card in the set. People will tell you it's Giggling Inventor.
To be
or
honest,
Loop,
I'm not sure if it's the best, but it's my favorite card of the set.
I'm not sure it's my
I like
favorite.
how
I think it might be the
powerful
best.
it is.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And a warrior card can never be anyone's favorite card. That'd make you
That's
a bad
not true.
person.
That's not true.
Class.
One of my favorite cards was Zoth's First Mate.
That makes you a bad person.
That does not make me a bad person. That makes me a gamer.
Does it?
Oh, yeah. I was a gamer back in the Pirate Warrior days.
No. Just no. Don't at me.
And you know, I actually want to talk about one of the craziest things with this matchup is that even if you feel that you may not have an appropriate answer to a board state that your opponent might create, you can even Azalina into their Spreading Plague. And that is another way to make sure they don't have that board state.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. Azalina's just an amazing card to watch unfold.
Yes, it is. It's really impressive how a lot of these players have kind of coped with, you know, using it in the deck. And Feno really has no proper ways to make a board state right now.
And the thing is, it's not going to make one board state. He can do that. He can make 2 board states. How's he going to make, what, 4? He saw the
7 cards left.
Purple kept cards his owner. He knows he's in trouble.
Yeah, Purple kept 2 of the cards on the far left-hand side, whether it be Brawl or Reckless Flurries, that he just has not had the chance to play because he hasn't needed to.
Yeah, and that makes things very awkward for Feno. And just that Baron Geddon has made such a difference this matchup.
That Baron Geddon was insanely powerful that one turn.
Yeah, and it's just one
Especially
card.
going
It's
with
not a
that
bad
Roman.
card in a control deck anyway, and it has
I shall do
an
as you
extra
say.
purpose of just being able to kill off one particular deck. It's just a purple special.
I think Gallon was also running it, so I wouldn't be surprised if Purple and Gallon worked on their lineups together.
That makes sense to me.
Gallon's another player that currently is 5-1, if I remember correctly. Both those players are 5-1 right now.
Gallon started the day 3-1, so that sounds about right. He's an incredibly underrated player as well.
I think so as well. And, you know, the reason, you know, we could start to commentate a little bit more on, you know, the things that are happening, but ultimately, as proficient as Purple is as
Yeah, until Feno
warrior
makes a board,
player.
there's nothing to say, because those Reckless Flurries are dominating the first 2 boards. The only point of interest is how Feno approaches the timing of how quickly to make a board versus... But even that's taken away from the mulligan. He knows there's at least 2 cards there that deal with things, so he hasn't even got the sort of all-in risk play, which you sometimes have.
I mean, he has to try and make some kind of board, and then even then, like you said, Purple has the answers. There's no current way he can make a board.
I might start keeping 1 card as warrior against Token Druid, just so they don't
Just
play
any
their
card?
combat. Yeah, just so they don't play their stuff out.
I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of players are still going to play their stuff out. I think a lot of players are just going to go ahead and dedicate to it and say, you know what? If you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. I lose the game, because that's how...
On ladder, I
bad this
agree,
matchup
but in a
is.
tournament, keep 1 card against someone
I think it's
that's
still
good.
pretty risky to just keep a card that might not be that strong in the matchup. I think it's much more worth it to
draw the
show
cards.
your opponent and draw the actual card. I
Yeah.
definitely think so. I guess it depends on the card, though. But
We saw Amnesiac earlier willingly put himself down, or put his opponent down to 15, saying, okay, I can deal with a Hooked Reaver.
you see that a lot in the Even Warlock matchups where you say, all right, I have an answer for Hooked Reaver. Let me conveniently put them down to 15.
Yeah, I mean, it was 16, but it was 5 mana and a tap available, so yeah,
Exactly.
it put him in range.
I didn't know that card said we have liftoff, and now that's
Nor did
my
I,
favorite
yeah,
card.
exactly. Yeah, I play with sounds off quite a lot, not all the time, but I'm usually watching streams or tournaments at the same time, so unfortunately these amazing sounds often sort of bite the dust.
I think Purple was evaluating whether he needed that that death rattle to go off for the spark. He didn't need the death rattle. He still had 2 mana left over. I think Purple likes to think about those little quirky things where he's like, do I even need that mana? Because he could have just traded the minion in, pulled out the spark, and used it.
I think he's a player that plays better if he keeps himself entertained. If he sits there and goes like 100% all in on the exact Hearthstone play, he gets bored because he's so smart.
Yes.
So he thinks about stupid things sometimes just to wake himself up and keep himself thinking clearly.
Especially in a matchup like this where Purple knows he has won this game. He has the hand, he has the resources, he knows that Feno really can't do anything. Purple knows he's won this game. Right now, he's just kind of going through the motions and waiting
He's
for
got a
Feno
tough game
concede.
to come in game number 4.
That he does, and I think that's all going to depend on how Feno's Quest Rogue is built. A lot of players have been cutting one of the boars and one of the Mimic Pods, or the Wax Elementals, in order to play 2 copies of Fana Knives, in order to help with the Token Druid matchup.
Boar Knife Happy Man?
Yeah, Ghoul. Knife Jugglers. That's what they are. But the reason that's so important is because if they cut a Stone Tusk boar, if they cut both boars, that means that the warrior can actually fatigue the Quest Rogue or outvalue them. It's going to be pretty difficult sometimes, especially with Zola the Gorgon, if Feno opts to save that card. But there is that potential chance of outvaluing the rogue if they have to use the Zola early.
I've been making this point about Feno all year, looking at him there. Old Feno would be angry right now. Why has my opponent got Baron Geddon? Blah, 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 blah. New Feno, game number 4 is about to start. Focus. And he's been like that. I think working with Boar Control and Glazer has helped all 3 of those guys. Especially Boar and Feno, because they were always a little bit salty. And both of them sort of helped each other calm down. I hate to see what their Discord looks like.
I don't want to.
They probably just have emotes for every swear word imaginable, and that's it. That's just the Discord. Just so they can blow off steam without having it in public and then just get on with their life.
I mean, it's actually a... Purple is already, Purple, that's one thing I love about Purple is he's just a funny guy and he's really crazy about that.
Canada had this matchup, HGG, this week. And they couldn't qualify, so we were memeing sort of on the desk, like, before we went live, like, maybe he just concedes. And then it turns out then he played 2 Frothing Berserkers in the deck. It was Odd Warrior with 2 Frothing, and then he just went Frothing, put it behind a Taunt minion, making a million attack Frothing, and just beat Quest Rogue. But he hasn't got those available to him today.
Yeah, I don't think he was being that crazy with it.
And this is the play that Galen recommends. Get your Novice Engineers and your Shadow Steps, and you're looking in, well, good position.
I think so as well. Novice Engineer is one of the best cards to complete the quest on, especially in this matchup. The one thing you do have to be concerned with is burning the quests. I don't think players of this caliber will necessarily be worried about that, but
it
sometimes
does happen,
It happens. I've seen it happen in large-scale tournaments.
Was it Standard Darchi did it one time?
I think
I don't want to say the wrong person because then you've really embarrassed
I'm not
somebody.
quite sure.
It may not have been Quest Rogue.
I know a European player did it once because, of course, it's the European region, so it kind of makes sense.
Whoa.
And I...
Yeah, I mean, I guess they were in championships, so yeah.
See, they actually had the opportunity to do it. That's what I was going for, Lorena.
Yeah, obviously.
But jokes aside, it does happen. It's something, becomes a stressful environment. You're not really thinking straight. You're just like, oh, I got the quest done. And you try and want to get it out as quickly as possible. You just make the play, and next thing you know, you go, uh-oh, or yikes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think Feno says yikes quite a lot when he streams.
I think yikes is a pretty
goodness me.
word. Goodness me.
Yeah.
Very niche.
Holy smokes, what a mistake I just made.
They're very niche scenarios. These are just
how Feno functions, I'm sure. But he is getting close to that situation where it could go wrong. But obviously, I fully anticipate Feno. He takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's good at this deck. I think that helps you concentrate.
So as well. He goes for the Prep Vanish here.
Challenge.
He then has access to both of these minions. Does he burn a card? He would burn a card, so he's going to have to use the coin here. I think it's fine. You're not really too concerned with it. Even going to get rid of that Glacial Shard just in case for the future turns. He can go Novice, Brewmaster, Novice, and have enough space in his hand in order to be able to get that quest. You're going to see him hold on to that Zola. That way, when he gets Valera down, he can go ahead and get infinite Zolas in order to outvalue this warrior.
It is interesting watching Purple and all the other strong players try to win a matchup that's almost unwinnable.
I mean, sometimes it's doable. I mean, an important card this matchup is Azalina.
Yeah.
Azalina can take those minions from your opponent, can take basically that quest from your opponent.
Take the quest is a big deal. And we saw Feno there.
The similar thing.
The second he bounced the Novice back, he instantly hovered over his deck to see how many cards he had. It was just a habit. It was just an automatic movement.
He's honestly just playing these minions just to get rid of cards from his hand. That way he can play that quest next turn without, you know, any fear. And honestly, if these minions stick, that's a fair amount of damage. But
the Brawl's in hand for Purple. He can deal with one board.
But Dynamatic,
pew pew.
And Purple actually right now has a board state over Feno. It's not pushing the most amount of damage, but it's going to help him clean up the minions later on. And I believe Feno, for these Phantom Knives, would have cut a Mimic Pot and that board that I was mentioning earlier. I think it's the most common cut in the deck. So with only one boar in the list, it does make it trickier with trying to kill off your opponent, especially when Purple has, right now, 42 health.
Have to note as well, he could have completed the quest last turn. However, Azalina makes a real mess if the quest ever sits in your hand for a turn. Then you steal the quest and things do go a bit insane. As well as the cards in the hand, suddenly everything's a 4/4.
Yeah,
and you've got Omega assemblies and things.
Yeah. And right now, Purple just being very aggressive. Feno's at 19 and doesn't have the most optimal way of dealing with this board state. Does have Vicious Scale Hide, which can be very important. Allows him to heal back up to where he doesn't really have to worry about that. That's one of the tools that Quest Rogue players utilize the most to their fullest potential, is that Vicious Scale Hide. Because it is, along with Vanish, is one of your most important tools for living.
Yeah, it's interesting again watching Feno play. Says, you know, he can't think of many matchups where you don't keep Vanish in your opening hand.
Yes,
it doesn't do anything, but it's the card you most want.
Because against aggressive matchups, you need that card to win, and then against control matchups, the only way you lose is by getting outvalued. And I was about to say, I was a little sketched out by this because you really want to make sure you have that Zola, but Feno, very importantly, made sure to bounce that Zola back to the hand in order to play it in the future turns with that Valera.
Yeah, everything you've been talking about, the Zola goes, maybe you get outvalued, maybe you get fatigued, so making sure he keeps that so that can't happen. But getting himself another Giggling Inventor in the process just because, why wouldn't you?
Giggling Inventor is an insane card, and I think that's part of the reason why Quest Rogue is as good as it is.
Yeah, I don't think it would be good at all without the Giggling Inventor. I might be wrong there,
but it feels so playable, good. But this makes it feel oppressively good.
Yeah, it really is powerful. And you never feel you can do anything against Quest Rogue when it does its thing.
Yeah, you kind of feel helpless. I almost wouldn't mind to see that minion maybe push face, but I think Purple just wants to go ahead and clean it up because he may feel as if he can get there with this current board state. Feno's going to be looking for that Valera as quickly as possible, because if Purple plays this right, he can potentially drain Feno of a lot of his resources. But Feno, now that I'm saying that, as resource after resource after resource.
And he's finding time to get them all into his hand. There's Sonya. She's quite a good card in this deck, I hear.
Yeah, word on the street is Sonya is pretty powerful in this deck.
Made even more powerful because of Giggling Inventor. Quite often, a lot of decks these days can't deal with her at all when she's hidden behind those Manoia traps.
Yeah, when you hide a Sonya Shadow Dancer behind a Giggling Inventor, that's almost checkmate right there, especially against aggro decks.
Because then you trade in the Giggling Inventor next turn and just do it again, and they still can't kill her.
And the Giggling Inventor costs 1 mana.
Might as well.
It's absurd.
Go the whole way. you're going to do it, just do it right.
Gonna get it right the first time.
I hope you like my invention.
Feno still just cycling through. He's only got 5 cards left in his deck.
Yeah, Valera being near the bottom is something that can be a bit of a nuisance.
It can be, but
I mean,
I
we're
honestly
talking
think as long
against
as it comes out into play, it's going to be fine for Feno. As long as it's not the last card and Purple's managed to put some crazy kind of board state together, I think Feno's fine with it.
Yeah, Purple has taken every opportunity to kill things when he can. He's going to MC Tech something most likely now, but...
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Whirlwind come out, clean up that 4-1, then the MC Tech come down, and then in doing so, he can take potentially one of the Annoytrons, use his weapon in order to answer the rest of the minions, and then can play the Elise as well. Looks like he's not going to commit the Whirlwind yet. Might want to save that for, you know, killing off one of the Giggling Adventures with a Reckless Flurry.
Yeah, it takes the 80% chance that he doesn't get it.
This jungle hides many.
And Elise, maybe she can find something that wins in the game. Like 5 King Crushers. That's not the right card.
Like a
5 Swamp King Dread.
Curious Glimmerroot that finds the quest that then gets completed.
That'd be a very curious Glimmerroot.
That'd be very curious Glimmerroot.
But possible.
Some might say he'd be on a quest.
Yeah. Very slow quest.
One that produces 4/4s. That used to produce 5/5.
Yeah, that would be rubbish. No one would play that card. Why would you play it after it gets nerfed? I mean, if you think about it, every card in your deck got 1/1 smaller. So it must be just unplayable.
To be frankly honest, when that nerf got announced and I was looking at the deck, that is literally what I said. I said, you are minusing your whole deck by 1/1.
Everybody says that.
How can this be good?
And but we're in a 3/3 meta is part of the thing.
We're in a 3/3
Well,
meta.
a lot of the best minions are 3/3s right now. Have 3 health. Like Chain Gangs have 3 health. So 5 to 4, as it turned out, didn't hit many breakpoints.
And Giggling Inventor is a powerful card.
And Giggling Inventors gives you 3 4/4s. So instead of getting 5 health, you get 12. Seems like a fair trade.
Like a fair one to me. And Purple, it's actually funny, gets that Novice Engineer. Gonna go and replay that. Elise puts another pack in the deck, which could be beneficial.
When one pack isn't good enough.
And bottom 3 right now for Feno is that Valera. It's making me reconsider if he's even playing the card.
I hate that. When you play 2 games in a row on ladder and you don't draw your key cards, and then you just have to go quickly and check your deck because you feel stupid. And then it is there and you're like, oh, okay, I'm just unlucky.
I mean, I don't think he would ever cut that for...
Maybe he left his computer unattended.
Purple went over.
I don't think Purple would do it. You know, Purple's not that fiendish. Somebody, you know, leave your computer unattended and somebody just switches out the quest and puts in a second bore so you don't notice until the bottom of the deck.
I think Feno might notice the quest was missing from the opening mulligan.
Yeah.
And look over and be, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you just assume you would keep the left card.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't even pay attention. And you just drag it to the board and it's a Stone board.
That's the best nerf to this deck. Your quest just can appear in the deck at any time.
I mean, is he actually going to burn? Okay. I got a little concern there because if it actually were to draw a minion, there was a potential for Feno to burn Valera. But right now, Purple knows that all of the minions in the deck are currently in Feno's hand. And Purple knows that there's a Giggling, a Vicious, a 1-mana Zola, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, he knows the cards. We get it.
I was trying to name the cards, all right? I was trying to
you just see the cards.
Smart. Purple's going to know every single one of those cards in Feno's hand.
Yeah.
And he's going to know potentially how to combat that and what's the best.
Purple is very good at making a plan. I know we keep saying how good these players are, but seriously, these are... If you have to name like the top 10 in the world, these two easily get into that conversation before you start breathing and thinking.
There's Valera, and even
Just
Valera...
in time!
Even Valera being the bottom card of the deck still means that he could just go infinite with Zolas, and Purple eventually is not going to be able to answer that.
Imagine if she'd been 1 card lower, she'd have just been Fire. And then there might have been problems. But as it is... Feno is making sure to get the damage in now because he has got to get on with it.
Making sure to even bounce back the value cards. That way, if there is some convoluted scenario where Feno loses on a value plan, he has got backup value.
Yeah, Geddon. What you doing this game?
Just getting them.
Wow.
Just going getting them. You don't like that one?
I do like that one, but I don't want to admit it because that'll make you funnier than me, and then I won't have a job.
I'm actually a little curious to see that Gluttonous Ooze not committed here. I think it's because Purple knows that Feno is going to play this Valera. So he wants to get rid of the dagger when he knows Feno can't re-dagger again. That way the only charger at that point is the Stone Tusk Boar.
Giggling Event is going to be pretty silly. In fact, all of this is now pretty silly.
Picks it up. I mean, the issue with playing this card is that there's still Sonya in the midst.
Yeah, here it all comes.
Could even play double Sonya.
Come, try your come.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, looks like he's going to go for the double Sonya.
Make it end. He's got no
just
cards.
absurd.
He's still drawing cards. What?
Infinite boars.
Yeah, this is why you don't need to play 2 anymore.
I wouldn't be opposed here instead of seeing the boar again. Maybe seeing the vicious Scalehide, because there might be some scenario where Purple lasts long enough to take Feno to enough fatigue to kill him with like a sneaky Baron Gedge Fiery Warriors.
I do think though that giving yourself all these charge minions just lowers the clock on Purple so much.
But wait,
oh,
Azalina.
Oh my
taking
goodness!
These charge minions. I think if you're Purple here, you just kind of clear off this board.
Buy yourself the charges and start hitting people.
I mean, what if he just goes for it now?
Yeah, it feels good.
Why not play it here? You get so many charges.
But he killed the boars first, so he gets more of them as well.
Yes.
Purple's enjoying himself, whatever happens there. You can always tell when Purple's happy, just that little smile that says, hey, look at me, I did something clever.
But he also has, he killed it in a way that he got Sonya knowing that Feno had Giggling Inventor. And with that, he can go ahead and play the Sonya and then get through the Giggling Inventor with the Stone Tusk Boars.
We've got a giggling Purple and a giggling Feno and loads of boars right now. That's amazing.
I mean, this honestly actually could have been slightly prevented.
Yeah.
If Feno had gone for the vicious Scalehide.
You did say that.
Over the Stone Tusk Boar.
And Feno has got 75 seconds to work out what to do about this predicament he's put himself in.
This is insane, Lorinda. I think Purple may have clutched it out.
He's definitely given himself such a great chance here. I mean, they've got the same hand. Okay, Feno's has got more sustain, but he's taking fatigue every time as well.
And I believe he took 3 fatigue last turn.
So when you've been Azalina'd, the right thing to do is to just get the tempo. You've got the same hand, so your board always has the attacker's advantage.
My hand is full.
It's the first rule of it. There's many other rules of Azalina, some of which I don't even understand, but that's the first rule of Azalina, is just make sure your attacker's advantage stays.
I'm trying to figure this out. You put the Gluttonous Ooze in, you then go Sonya Boar. You can then put 3 attacks into the Giggling Inventors. If you do that, you will have dedicated 4 mana. You will then have 3 boars left over. If you have 4 boars left over, if you put all 4 of those boars into the face, 4, 8, 12, 16.
And I think Feno's taking 4 next turn. I wouldn't swear to that.
Then you Zola on one of the boars, and then you replay the boar. And I believe that is lethal, because he will take the fatigue damage. You will dedicate 4 mana for clearing off the Giggling Inventors.
Yep.
You will dedicate another 4 mana for the other 4 boars. That's 8 mana. You'll then dedicate the 1 for the Zola. I've already counted the Sonya.
Okay.
And then you will dedicate the last mana to the board to end the game. I think Purple had lethal there.
Come, try.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I'm not going to commit to it because
it was a lot to calculate in that turn. I think that's something Purple should have been doing
during Feno's turn.
Feno's turn. Oh, you know what? I'm completely forgetting that he can't do this. Oh,
yeah, because they've only won ones after. Yeah, I was making the same mistake. Sorry.
I made that mistake.
I've done it too many times.
I'm sitting there assuming that it is the...
Yeah, you get 4 4s, but then they go back as 1-1 straight after.
So Purple knowing that he couldn't do anything
I wonder why.
it.
I know the fact that Purple hasn't done it means it probably wasn't possible, but trying to work it out there.
Yeah, that's something, you know... I apologize for getting that wrong. I felt so confident about that.
It's good, though. It's good to get things wrong. It shows you're learning. And this is actually lethal for Feno. And Purple is just happy to have made Feno panic. Feno enjoyed that as well. And we're going into game number 5. And I want to see this because I want to see Feno, who did give Purple a bit of an opening there. I don't think he calculated it when he made all those boards. He, you know, it's all right, I was making the mistake there. But Feno, when he saw that happen, suddenly started laughing. He's like, oh, I now have to think. I have messed this up.
That was a little scary, I'm not gonna lie, and I went on a whole tangent. I felt so smart about myself.
I was just listening, thinking, this sounds really good.
I realized
I was just thinking about Muzzyland at the time.
Muzzyland. But yeah, no, Purple obviously recognizing that. That's something, you know, you have to take consideration of.
So we're going into that Rogue Zoo game that we thought might come a bit quicker than this, but Purple really making Feno work for that. So let's see how Feno goes about, how much damage he can take, how much he's willing to absorb. Your health total is your main resource in this game. You can't stop everything hitting you. You can't do it. Glacial Shard means that you can stop something hitting you. That's a good spot to be in. Let's see how he decides to meet out these resources, how he decides what can hit him and what can't.
And we already see here Feno making a very important play on turn 1, deciding to go with the South Sea Deckhand in order to contest a Flame Imp or a Voidwalker, because he's most likely going to be daggering on the following turn. A lot of players, they feel as if they need to play the quest turn 1, but that's not the case at all. You can go ahead and take your sweet time and play the quest whenever.
Especially in this day and age when you're doing it with novice engineers most of the time.
Exactly.
Another thing you've got to be very wary of here when you play this matchup is not to run yourself out of cards. You can stop the early onslaught for quite a while, but if you do it the wrong way, you just ultimately run out of stuff, and then turn 4, turn 5, they just hit you with their board.
The big issue with this matchup is it's played in a way that you kind of have to use your resources as Quest Rogue very aggressively. And when you use them very aggressively, a lot of times it comes back to bite you because you don't have the means to complete your quest effectively, but you also can't not use your resources or you will just die.
Feno made a decision last turn. He could have hit one of the imps with his face, for instance, setting up a fan into killing off that minion through this. A choice that he did make.
Yeah, it would have paid off here because he would be able to Phantom Knives to clear off one of the Flame Imps. The only thing is you really risk the fact that what if Purple had the Fungal Enchanter?
Then you give them a 3 Happy Ghoul.
Then you...
Well, he'd already got it because the imps, but yeah, you give them just...
You gave them 3 extra damage that they should not have had.
And it's a lot of damage.
Yes, 3 damage is the difference between winning and losing.
You will get down below 10 every time in this matchup, and it's just how you cling on at the bottom there. Not well by the look of this. This might be one of those games where we don't get to see much, but a giggling.
Giggling Inventor, though, that is a card you want to see right here and now. Typically, you'd wish that, you know, the Zulok didn't have quite the powerful answer for the Giggling Inventor, but Feno sees the Dreadlord come out there. He's a little disappointed, but it's looking pretty good for Zulok right now.
Yeah, Purple, decent hand and just being pretty careful with everything. Feno, you're not even thinking about the quest at this point. You're just thinking, okay, make sure I preserve something to complete the quest with later. There's a Sonya.
Okay, that's something to work with, especially having the Vicious Skeleton in hand and can still find potentially a Stone Tusk Spore or a South Sea Deckhand for later on. Right now, Purple's going to want to be as aggressive as possible with both Dreadlords being able to clear both minions, meaning that Purple doesn't even need to trade at all.
Oh my goodness, is it just going to be almost certainly a wipeout, but Vanish is going to buy some time.
That's definitely what Feno needed right here. Playing Boar, being able to vanish these minions back up. Wouldn't be surprised to see maybe the dagger hit even go into the Kobold Librarian just to make sure that it can't really cycle through. Because the one good part about Vanish in the Zulok matchup is that you force your opponent to make awkward turns, since the minions in Zulok are very mid-range.
Yeah, they are. And next turn, he's got Sonya into multiple boars to complete the quest. Depending what, you know, he'll have 8 mana with which to play 5 boars. That might be enough to give him a chance if he gets a giggling inventor or another Vanish.
But Kobold Librarian into potential Serenite Chain Gang. That could have been buffed, but I like this a little bit more, going much wider onto the board from purple. So the quest can be completed while clearing off both.
Or you can do it with Scale Hides, gain a bit of health. You don't finish the quest this turn.
But the issue with Scale Hide is it can't die off.
It's too big.
It's too large. So you have to do with boars. You have to clear essentially half of the board. You do complete the quest, but purple could end this game on the following turn with some kind of burst damage.
Valera was picked up while we're discussing that as well. So another turn, 5 more health picked up for Feno. And things do get a bit interesting at that point.
I mean, if you can get to this stage of the game, it gets very interesting. I think it's going to take some kind of Soulfire draw or some kind of Doomguard draw in order to put purple back into this game.
How it changes so quickly with Quest Rogue. I mean, Feno has picked up 3 great cards in a row.
But
they're in the deck.
You do run those cards for a reason. It's going to have to be Kobold Librarian here. Does have the Fungal Enchanter to reload with that Happy Ghoul.
And remember, he did play that deck hand on turn number 1, which gave him something on the board.
Yes, it all spawned back to that. And imagine if he had taken that 3 extra potential damage.
Yeah, there's so many things that could change. Puts you in double Soulfire range. Still work to do here for Feno, though. Purple is going to just set up lethal after lethal. And he still has the double Dreadlord in hand. That's a way of making the board hurt.
Another Vanish.
Feno's just smirked at Purple, and Purple's sort of shook his head looking back. I like the interaction between these 2 players. Just 2 pros who know exactly what's going on.
Fungalmancer's a decent draw, but you cannot touch Feno right now. He is under that stealth. This is insane. Just draw after draw. Just went.
This was over 3 or 4 turns ago. Just completely and utterly over.
But purple really can't do much here. He just kind of has to play his cards and hope for the best.
Hope the Feno hasn't picked up a Vanish recently. Oh my.
Wait a minute. Trying to see if some double Phantom Knives play here, but
don't think he needs to.
Don't think he needs to. I think he can save the Phantom Knives for when after they have to reload as well. You always have that shadow card.
Death's shadow grows.
Can he just... There's so many things he can do.
I think he needs to vanish this board state. It also burns a card off the top of Purple's deck, so maybe Feno gets a little bit lucky with burning, say, a Soulfire or a Doomguard. Also gets rid of, you know, a couple of those minions.
Yeah, I think the consideration was, do I need to Scale Hide yet? And the answer is no, you didn't. And now, just drawing more cards. Feno really does draw. Anyone who's good at this deck draws so many cards with it at every opportunity. Zola's been picked up now. Means that Scale Hide things can happen. Turns out that Fan's really handy when your opponent has 4 5s and you have 4 4s.
Purple is just trying to go as wide as possible. I think Purple is even taking a nod to try and play around Fan Knives as much as possible, but there's only so much you can do. There is a double fan line to play, but Feno still needs to complete this quest. Ooh, with the Shadow Step. That's going to mean that this Scale Hide can put in even more work.
Because it doesn't put in enough work, right?
Yeah, I might as well do more. Play the second one, can even play the board, can clear up 4 minions onto this board, or can just freeze the Dreadlord. I think Feno has turned this game around, finally. We knew it was coming to this, but it's insane what Quest Rogue can do.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. Look at the health total now. He's going to have it the same play again next turn with Zola in hand and 5 more mana available because they won't have to mess around with the quest. Whoa.
That all came from the vanish Feno picked up off the top. If it was not for that vanish,
Yeah, he was dead next turn.
he was dead next turn. But, you know, Purple still got fighting him. He still has this Dreadlord that can clean up the majority of the board. And if he can find a way to stick something to push damage, Purple can potentially take this game back.
Did Feno need to play the third Scale Hide there last turn? He could have had all sorts of Scale Hide Zola nonsense this turn.
Yeah, maybe he could have held back onto it. That is a potential.
He'd have taken 2 damage or something, but who cares? Then this turn he would have had Zola memes, but this is the double fan turn you were talking about. Hey.
So thank you, Double Fan. You still got room to play out that.
You've got more health than
Stone
Purple.
+4. Feno's drawn a little dead.
About
We'll
time.
I mean, honestly, that was probably the most dead sequence of draws he could have had.
Yeah? Yeah, we're joking around as if it's over, but you do have to be careful. Things can go wrong. But with Giggling Inventor happening next turn, and now he's got the Shadow Step. Oh my.
There's only so much Purple can do. Purple can just rely that Feno's 4 cards are not
he knows,
cards.
Yeah, yeah, prep, and he knows about the boar, so boar.
Ooh.
Well, he's doing what he can to generate pressure.
Giggling Inventor, we've talked about this card quite a lot. The prep is a dead draw, but Giggling Inventor into Giggling Inventor into being able to bounce back to Giggling Inventors. And Purple, I think, realizes it. Going to go ahead and concede the game. Feno is going to come back in that matchup and take it 3-2 over Purple.
Feno booking himself a spot in the top 16 with 2 rounds to go. That's important. It means he can freewheel very slightly the next 2 rounds to prepare himself. It's the end of a long day, that top 16. Will be played tonight, so we'll be able to just rest his brain a little bit. Purple down to 5-2 now. Going to have to win out to book his spot, and then tiebreaker should be good enough, but you never know.
Yeah, he does get the added tiebreakers of playing against Feno, who is one of the undefeated players right now. And, you know, it just goes to show, I mean, how powerful both of these players are. And you kind of see that, you know, Feno, he may have struggled a little bit in the early stages. I think that first game was a little dicey. I think
yeah, a couple of the plays seemed a bit iffy through that
series. Well throughout the series, but goes to show he's a very impressive player with that quest stroke. Purple still has a legitimate chance, but what I was going to mention on earlier was when you go 7-0 and you have that luxury of being undefeated, you are exactly right. This is a tiring tournament for these players. They are going through long rounds of Swiss where they are playing matchups that maybe either are untested or they're matchups where you are playing a 50-minute game of Control Warrior against Control Warrior, and having that security of saying, you know what, even if he wanted to, he could lose the next 2 games, be top 16, and then can focus on those games in the future is something that some of these players don't quite have the luxury of, being 5-2.
Well, you were talking about impressive players. You know who else is an impressive player? It's Muzzy.
Ooh,
so we're going to take a short break, and after that we're going to have Muzzy versus Doc Pone. Doc Pone is on fire in this tournament, and we will see you in just a moment as soon as we got them ready.